Well, as has become fairly common these days, I've got another Retina IIIc in front of me, and this one's really seen better days. The exposure meter. Let's start with the exposure meter. Well, it responds to light, which is a bonus. None of them are going to be accurate. It's missing the dials on the top, that's been bowled off. Missing the flap that goes over the front, so that's been torn off too. So, strap lug at this end, smashed back flat with the top cover. It's definitely been dropped on its head, that end of the camera. At the base of the camera, there's no tripod sockets around, no cover for the back catch there. What else? Well, the rewind knob is sitting at a very strange angle. You can see the shaft's pushed well over that way, but the top here is wonky. So you can see as I revolve that the screw there is just bent. The shaft is pushed right across. Does the camera work? It does cock. Sometimes the film advance lever sticks out at the end of the travel. Some issue there. Given the general state of it, it's quite likely that the release shaft, which releases the film advance, might be sticky. That might not be returning up correctly at the end of the travel, allowing you to wind back. So, well, I'll have to be into this one. I won't give you blow by blow, but anything interesting I see, I'll let you know. Perhaps the first challenge is getting to the screw on the end of the top cover here, because the strap lug is bent right over onto it. So I'll have to lever that back, see if I can get something in there that's not going to do any more damage to the camera than it's already got. Oh yes, that's very unhappy. That's a bit better. Now at least I can get to that screw after a fashion. And of course there's two screws on the top of the top cover at this end. Start with the right screwdriver, it would help. I noticed that the screws on the accessory shoe are somewhat damaged. Someone's had a go at those with the wrong size screwdriver, I would think. Let's get this top cover off. Those two screws held the meter dial on the top of the camera here. Good to see those screws there, very easily lost. And I don't have any replacements. Well, I probably do, but I'll have to hunt for them. So let's have a look at the top cover. What can I say about this? It's just dirty. It's not even heavily dented up, to tell the truth. The shoe's had a hard life. It looks a bit stretched. The screws have definitely been buggered around with. Of course we're missing the dial there. That should clean up fairly well. I have to find a dial for that. Let's lift bits and pieces off. I'll bring you back when I find the next crime against humanity. As I work my way into dismantling this camera, I notice that there's a crack here, pretty much at the hinge point on the door at the top, and a matching one at the base. In an ideal world, that would be replaced. I see the front piece of the door here is broken away. That corner's gone. Really, that needs the door replaced. I'll have to look at my parts and see if I've got something suitable. How would it get like that? Well, it's been dropped. There's not much doubt about the camera having been dropped. I'd say it's been dropped on multiple occasions. Must have belonged to Mr. Butterfingers. I'll just recover those washers. Here, the shim washers for the door. Let's have a look at this door. The arms are bent. I can tell, you probably can't see there, but you can see they're splayed out slightly. That means that they've been bent basically. It's got a bit of a bow in it. This one, it's quite marked, so I know that that's been dropped. The door was open, it's been dropped on the door, probably did for that corner, and something is done for those for the casting at the hinge points there. Now normally what I would do with a case like that is just flush that right out, and probably a drop of super glue would be as good as anything else. This corner knocked off, I've got to make a decision whether I can find a replacement or whether to continue with that one. The leatherette on this is in comparatively good order, so you can't get the stuff off in one piece because it's rolled in multiple directions. It doesn't lend itself to being able to come off the camera neatly. I'll carry on. So, was there a good result? Well, I think it's come up pretty well. The only thing that gave me trouble really was the base leatherette, and that fragmented pretty badly at that point. That's all been glued back. I still got to clean it up a little bit more, rub a bit of wax and that'll be as good as gold. Replaced the front door. That piece was broken off there, cracked through at both hinges. Both arms were bent. I was able to find a better one in my parts and replace that. It was missing the dial off the top of the meter, for the top of the meter here. I was able to find a replacement for that. I had to do a little bit of panel beating on the top cover because it was crushed down at one end, which prevented the follower needle from moving smoothly. Of course, it was missing the flap. It was missing the flap partly because the hinge points on the casting for the meter were both snapped off. So I had to strip the meter down completely and move the movement and window and so forth to another housing. Fortunately, the other housing happened to have a better selenium cell, so I fitted that in here, and this meter appears to read pretty accurately in sunlight, so I'm quite pleased with that. The rewind knob, the screw in that was bent. I've had to straighten that up. The accessory shoe needed to be straightened up. That was a little bit bent. At the base of the camera, of course, it was missing the tripod socket surround and the back catch cover. They were both missing, so I've had to replace those. Mechanically, it was fairly straightforward. A little bit dirty, sticky old grease, things of that nature. The only odd thing about the service was that someone had modified the shutter. It had a lever internally in the shutter that would set the M speed, allowing you to use bulb flash, had been glued back out of place, so effectively it was always in the X sink position. And now that was very unusual. I've never seen anyone do that before. That can be the only reason someone would have done it, is because they were in the habit of forgetting to set the flash sink correctly and getting bad photos as a result using electronic flash. That's the only reason I can think someone had ever done that. That was a bit unusual and very unexpected. But the clumps of glue and the washer that they'd wedged under something, I was able to remove those successfully and turn the shutter back into a proper working example with X and M sync. And of course the self timer works normally as well. So all in all, I think it's been a fairly successful repair, and hopefully the owner will too when I contact him. I noticed there is a patch here on the back. If you can get that to catch the light, yeah, you can just about see that there. There's a patch of Leatherettes chewed out at that point there. I'll fill that with some black wax, I think. It's too small a hole to, if it was a larger hole than that, it would be almost worth cutting a patch into it, but it's not big enough to worry about. So that's that little job out of the way. I must admit I thought it was a pretty ugly example when it came in, but it's cleaned up well enough. I'm sure the owner will be happy to see it home. So thanks for watching.